All right. This is the Oz report for April 7th, 2025, a day late this week. But the big story in the market today is the 2-for-1 extractor sale that is going on for another few days. This happens in regular intervals, and this has some massive impacts. Not only, as we were seeing earlier, if we're looking at the overall most traded items in EVE Online, you can see that skill extractors traded yesterday at about 8 trillion in one day. That was about 26% of the market. That is pretty massive, and the overall amount traded of 30 trillion of all items is also very massive. So, lots of things going on in EVE Online. We saw a 1.4 trillion battle yesterday. We're seeing an extractor sale. We're seeing cheaper minerals. We're seeing dread production. So overall, just so many things happening in EVE Online. But let's talk about the skill extractor sale specifically. So if we look at what this did to the market, then first, of course, first big thing is skill extractors down about 5%. They're fluctuating between 5 or 10% down. So that's to be expected. This is a cash sale, not a New Eden Store sale. So you have to fork out cash. Typically, those have less of an impact than the New Eden Store sale, where you need Plex only. So the hurdle is lower to get in. And so what we're seeing here is a 2-for-1 sale, essentially 50% off. Lots of skill extractors flooding the market as people are spending real cash to buy them, to take advantage of this discount. That means skill extractor prices are down. That means skill farms and investors and other players needing skill extractors are out there rushing to buy them. So that's where we're seeing a high trade volume. We're also seeing lower prices. We're not seeing extremely lower prices as we used to see, just because people are more ready and more informed nowadays than they were when the first Plexigeddon came around. That was the first huge 2-for-1 extractor sale that we saw a couple of years ago. And so, yes, extractor prices are down. If you have ISK laying around, if you can take advantage of it, you can buy skill extractors right now for sub 500 million. That is a good price. Expect about a 10% profit if you hold on to them for a few months, and no additional sales are coming out. So this is something for large scale traders to take advantage of, but they do take advantage of it, and they do make a lot of money doing it. So the other side effect we see here is skill injectors and hypercores going down. Why is that? Mostly because of liquidity. So skill injectors are going down because skill farms are liquidating skill injectors to buy skill extractors. So just to put this into context, last week the skill farming formula was negative 1 billion. Now it's around negative 600 to 700 million at normal 12-month Plex subscription prices, right? So skill injectors are the way for skill farms to actually generate the cash needed to buy into the extractor sales. So and these extractor sales are absolutely necessary for skill farmers to replenish their stockpile to extract skills from their farms. And they're not going to be spending real cash, because skill farmers don't spend real cash. They're going to spend this. They're just going to take this 10% discount and be happy about it, and monetize it in the long term by selling skill injectors again. Hypercores are the other ones that are down slightly, just because a lot of people were still investing in hypercores and are switching from the hypercore sale 2-for-1 that happened now a long time ago, maybe a year ago already. And they're switching over to the skill extractor sale because the upside they expect to be higher. But so overall, if you have the cash laying around, buying into skill extractors is the right move this week. But be ready to hold on to them for a while, because this is a mid to long term payoff, not immediate. But they typically always recover back to 550 million if they're not directly followed by another sale. Let's look at what else is happening in EVE Online. We see R4 and R8 moon materials crashing this week. I mean, going down by a lot, by 18% the R4 moons and 11% R8 moons. They have been very, very erratic and trading at high volume. This is just still Metanox impacts, but they're very, very cheap right now, especially if you're looking at things like hydrocarbons or atmospheric gases. They dropped 20 to 30% this week. So very, very, very erratic. Certainly also at a point where you can imagine investing in them, because they have bounced back occasionally as people are buying them up for increased production, and just overall just selling very, very cheaply. Interestingly, basic minerals, those were jumping around a lot based on the March 12th patch that we saw that was specifically targeted at things like morphite going down. That has evened out a little bit. So basic minerals are overall pretty much unchanged in the price level. If we look at it in detail, we see morphite going down another 5%. So okay, morphite is now trading 27% below 52-week average, which is good for cheaper tier 2 modules, also cheaper for tier 2 overall production. Isogen is up 7%. Isogen was the target before that, so Isogen overall was getting cheaper and cheaper, and now it's recovering in price as other bottlenecks are resolved and the overall demand is increasing for an increase in production. So Isogen up 7%, but still 11% below 52-week average. And then we have Megasite also 5% up this week, and that is about 12% below 52-week average. But it looks like the massive impact of the March 12th patch is over, and minerals are more or less evening out over time. And so I think if we look at the morphite pricing level overall, it's right around that, what is it, 40k mark. Let's jump into the game client here. It's very close to where it was before Equinox. So looking at it in game here, let's see. You can see that the price has dipped just below that 40k mark. The sell orders here, just below that 50k mark. The sell orders are around 48, with buy orders at 46. And so overall, you can see that it's not pre-scarcity levels, it's pre-equinox levels. And so this, I don't think it has absolutely wrecked the market. It's just corrected a bottleneck that we had before. So it's going to be interesting to see what CCP thinks about this and whether they think it's in a good place again. As I said, the other minerals, if we look at them right here, we can see Isogen. This was the last target, as I said, where it dropped from about the 500 range to about the 300 range. We're now seeing a little bit of an increase lately because of the March 12th impact, but that's something that CCP will keep an eye on. And some of the other minerals have just been dropping continuously from the absolute peak that we saw in January. So we don't have the March economic report yet. We'll see where the MPI is at. Obviously, it's going to drop. I don't think it dropped as much as people thought it would be after the March 12th patch. So I think that this might not be the end of the line. If I were CCP, I would have another look at this and say, we can drop mineral prices further without wrecking the economy. But who am I? Who am I? All right, let's go back to the Oz report here. And that is, we're looking at things like fullerene. So wormhole gases eased off a little bit. Wormhole gases eased up 6%, but there are still a lot of them in high demand, especially because dread production is so high, dread destruction is high, dread production is high. lots of fullerenes needed. So if you're in the wormhole, still go out and huff that gas, still in very high demand. Just like also mycosarosin, so the non-wormhole gas up 10%. Another perceived bottleneck for capital production, up 10%, now 38% over 52-week average. That's pretty massive. As the market sorts itself out. And also the big one, if we look at these three right here, these are the exploration loot. These three are the exploration loot needed for dread production and other capital production. And so you see here, they are all trading massively above 52-week average, between 50 and 150%. And especially if you look at molecular forged materials, up another 17% this week. A lot of that is because of the isotropic deposition guides. We look at those in game. You can see here. This is what this is definitely a mix of market manipulation and lack of availability, right? So I've said this in previous Oz reports. The reason that these are a bottleneck is because there's just a set number of these this exploration loot out there, right? So if you wanted to bottleneck dread production, you can try buying these up and limit production through that, right? It's very hard to go out there and find these exploration sites and generate large amounts of these large amounts of these quickly. And so this is a way for CCP to control dread production and things like this. If you couple that with the inevitable market manipulation that's going to be going on with these, then you can see here, look at the trade volume here yesterday. This is about 3 times the regular trade volume. You already know, okay, massive dread brawl going on, 1.5 trillion destroyed, mostly dreads. People are not only going to go out there and buy these for production, but they're also going to buy these for trade profit. And so this is something that I think CCP will have to address in some way. There's various ways of addressing this. So right now, a lot depends on dreads. So a diversification from that would be, but CCP has already indicated that with cheaper dread prices, obviously they want more dreads out there, and that's what the player base is also voicing. But yeah, in the end, very interesting time to be trading in EVE Online, because a lot of these items are old bottlenecks, new bottlenecks, in short supply, and gamed from many different sides, alliances, market traders, and industrialists alike. Let's return here and quickly, we've talked about Plex and skill injectors. So abyssal filaments up 5%, and abyssal materials down about 10%. So you can see that the very, very high abyssal material prices, so 0. Condensate and crystalline oxygen 10, both of those high prices have pushed people to run more abyssals. If we look at the dashboard over here, we can see that if you look at what's in short supply, a lot of the abyssal filaments make it on here. So the chaotic dark filament, the cataclysmic electric filament, and the raging exotic filament are all in very short supply, because people are going to go out there, buy these up, buy up the most popular ones, and either run them or trade with them because of the very high price of abyssal materials out there. Let's see what else. have I not covered yet? Battlecruiser prices. So you can see that most ship prices are down, as you would expect, with raw materials being cheaper. Battlecruisers are up 11%, and that's because the new Capsuleer Day event was announced, and some of the sites are battlecruiser only, and so people are either gearing up for it or they're specifically tier 2 battlecruiser locked. If you look at the ones that have moved, we're talking Ferox, Vulture, Nighthawk, Hurricane, Hurricane Fleet Issue, all raising 30% plus. And that's probably the reason why overall battlecruisers are up 11%. All right. Yeah. Quickly, let's look at what else is in short supply. So retrievers, okay. Retrievers continue to be in high demand. This week, again, 90% of the supply bought out. There's almost no retrievers left. They're easy to replenish, but it's a good sign that people are going out there and buying mining barges because they're going out there to mine after the March 12th patch. So that's great. And last thing I want to mention over here is, again, highest trade volume versus yearly average, battleships, right? Tempest Fleet Issue, Tempest, Megathron, they're all trading in very high volume because they're just much cheaper. If you go over here and look at what's most underpriced, it's just like current prices compared to 52-week average. Yes, we see R4 and R8 moon materials that are just very, very cheap. Yes, we see a capital core temperature regulator that was recently had its components slashed, so it is much cheaper now, and it's one of the big reasons why capital ships are cheaper now. But also you see the Tempest, Megathron, and Raven. You see battleships here that are trading 20 to 30% below its 52-week average, and clearly the push for CCP to have more battleships out there, more tier 1 battleships out there, and that's a great sign. And we're seeing the fights out there too for it to happen. All right, that's the Oz report for today, and we're going to return to the regular stream, and I'll see you guys next week.